Squirrels! So hello, and welcome to another Legends of Runeterra video. My name is Chris, and today we are going to talk about some Reddit posts that came out a couple days ago, as you can see, about Steve Rubin, RubinZoo, Riot Rubin, did a Twitch stream and, talked about the game, and obviously he is one of the key devs in the game, and so I thought it was, pretty interesting, some of the things that he went on to say. So the first post here that we have is just kind of an interesting one about Ziggs, and might explain some of the cards that came out with Ziggs and why they, seemingly are so bad. So let's just go into it. So, Ziggs is my favorite champion from the new ones, and Ruben talked about his development process. He mainly mentioned two differences between his in-development and release version. First, Ziggs level 1 used to work like Xerath level 1, doing 1 damage to the enemy Nexus every time a landmark was destroyed. They ended up scratching this idea because it was too much burn damage. Now, we have seen, in the past, particularly when Rising Tides came out, there was a big sort of burn problem. And after that, I think they've always been a bit careful with, making sure that there isn't too much burn damage in the game. Just, I think mainly because, only certain regions have access to a lot of healing. So, it kind of felt bad that if you were playing certain regions, there's not much you could do about burn if it's too prevalent. So I understand this very much, and obviously we still do see that in the level 2, anytime a landmark is destroyed, Ziggs will do 2 to the enemy Nexus. So it still kind of is there, but that does make quite a bit of sense. And 2, Ziggs used to have a damage amp aura, probably a mix of Funsmith plus the Dreadway, adding 1 damage to all skills, spells, non-combat damage, landmark destructions. Yeah, that makes sense. This explains why some of his support cards work the way they do, like his champion spell bouncing bomb. I don't know if it worked with impact units. Does impact help level up? I would impact should, I think, help Swain's level up, although I don't actually know. But yeah, the effect was removed because they felt Ziggs already had too much going for him, so it was better to make him simpler, easier to balance design. On the one hand, I feel like a back row burn champion suits Ziggs better than the version we got. On the other, Bandle City is already called Pink City for a reason, so I can't imagine how obnoxious it would be to deal with Mystic shots that cycles. Anyway, just wanted to share this as a curious piece of information that helped me understand why some cards were printed. Cough, Mega Inferno Bomb. Cough. Yes, this does make a lot of sense, and this to me is like a big shame because I would have loved this. Ziggs would have been by far my favorite champion in the game. If this was, I already love Funsmith and the Dreadway as cards, so having a champion with this would have just been like the holy grail for me for a champion design. But I do understand that it would, as soon as you create that effect on a champion, of course, then you have to start thinking about like every single card that deals like any amount of damage, particularly AoE damage, and it does become a bit of a headache. I can understand. Like Funsmith and Dreadway, it's fine if they are bad cards, that's fine. You can just make them bad cards. They're not champions, right? With a champion, you can't just be okay with we want this champion to be bad. I don't think that they would say that about any champion. So yeah, it would have been difficult to balance. So I do understand, and Ziggs I think is still pretty fun, pretty fine. So I do understand what they were doing with Ziggs. But then we have a lot more to go into. Thank you for this, Kane Blassie, for going through, and this is kind of a bigger sort of overarching quick catch up on what happened. So Loping Telescope and Traveler will be changed to not manifest itself. Makes sense, right? I think a lot of people have said that it's kind of weird that they do, and, especially with a Bandle City Mare down on the board, getting Loping Telescope into something else is very, very strong indeed. Like a 1 mana 2/1 that gets you a 1 mana 2/1 that gets you a card is really, really quite good. So, yep. Often right to leave Nami and kill the elusives. I mean, this is kind of a gameplay opinion, I guess, but I mean, that seems right probably most of the time, but I'm sure there's instances where it's not right. Lost Souls is probably problematic. I mean, we can probably remove the probably from that sentence, but it does suggest that Lost Souls will be getting a change, which is a good thing because Lost Souls is a very, very, very strong card. And I think Lost Souls, I was thinking about this earlier, but Lost Souls, it's kind of, I think, what they worried Katarina would be, but kind of in a different way. They kind of have that similar effect where Katarina, you know, the idea of Katarina is that you know, consistently can rally with just this one card, and this one card is just going to give you so much value because you can just rally with it multiple times. Now, Katarina, you know, they've got the balance a bit wrong and it isn't strong enough. But I think the reason that they've avoided changing Katarina too much is because of what Lost Souls is. Lost Souls is just this infinite value machine that feels like it cannot be stopped. And I think that they worried that Katarina would be the same thing in some matchups where if you didn't have that specific answer for Katarina, you know, it didn't matter how long the game was going to go on, you were going to lose because they were just going to keep attacking you with Katarina. So I think that that's kind of an interesting thing. And so Lost Souls ended up being kind of probably what they feared Katarina would be. And that's probably why they have avoided, you know, buffing Katarina too much in the past. And so, yeah, Lost Souls change. Interesting to see what they do because there's a lot of ways you could change Lost Soul, but we'll see. Also, Aloof Travelers is likely to have a stat nerf. I think that one, you know, it makes a lot of sense. Having Aloof Travelers be a 3/3, I think, would make, you know, just a lot more sense. So that'll be nice. And they have a plan for the new balance philosophy that they're developing. The October patch will be the first full example of that new philosophy, but includes more frequent hotfixes. So maybe they figured out how to get around the 2-week delay. Yes, I would not be shocked if, remember when we got the Sivir and Rune Runner changes, and that kind of like quick, all of a sudden, out of nowhere balance patch, I wouldn't be shocked if that was the new thing. You know, if that's where they went with it, that they just, look, we'll just balance cards whenever we see there is a problem and get that out as quick as we can. We won't do it in a big, you know, like, big post and a big, like, explanation of all the changes why. We're just going to change it, you know, whenever we feel like there needs to be a change. I think that that would be a very good thing. You know, I don't mind them not giving me like a full list of all the changes and all the reasons why they changed all of the cards and yada yada yada. They can tweet that out later if they want. But I do care about, you know, the balance of the game and whether the game is fun. And so if this is a way that they can just be like, you know, let's just quickly patch this and patch that and patch this and quickly let's go, let's just do it. You know, anytime that they see a problem, you know, much like they would do, say there was like a truly game-breaking bug, right? Like, you know, where someone on turn like 2 could just lock you out of the game and, you know, could just sit there with like an infinite combo on turn 2 that you couldn't stop. They would change that very quick. You know, that wouldn't be in the game for very long at all because it would make the game unplayable, right? I think maybe if they could treat balance like that, where it's like, as soon as they realize something, it's like, oh, let's just change that. You know, oh, let's just change that. Let's just change this. Let's just change that. I think that that would be a very, very good thing if they could just do that and fix problems just on the fly. You know, just change things on the fly. You know, oh, we've been working on, you know, this Braum buff or something. Well, here it is, just randomly, out of the blue. Braum's better now. Like, things like that I think would be really quite exciting. Because then there wouldn't be this sense of like, oh, where's the balance patch? Where's the balance patch? If they were just coming at us, like, somewhat randomly, I think that that would be a good thing. We'll see, though. We'll see with that. Ruben paid some of his own money to unlock some of the cards from the most recent set. He likes that their employees don't get God accounts because they experience the game from a mostly real player perspective when they play on their own account. Specifically points out how MTG Arena feels predatory and that devs don't have to worry about that because they get all the cards unlocked automatically. Obviously a very good thing. You know, that basically they have to play like us. Diggs had a fun spot. Yeah, we've gone through that. They didn't try Nami with Targon in testing. Tried other combinations, obviously. Nerfing Asol might have been a knee-jerk reaction, so maybe, you know, Asol fans out there, you know, I think I would expect almost like his, you know, his level up condition to come down to what it was. I think it was 20 and then it went to 25, so maybe back down to 20. They didn't try Nami with Targon in testing. This one is kind of weird. Because like straight away, you know, I mean, I found it straight away. To be fair, you know, not many other people did. This was like my true creme de la creme of realization that, you know, Sparklefly was kind of the key element to Nami, because, you know, the lifesteal was just so good. So yeah, I mean, look, they're always gonna miss like one thing, you know. I mean, they have to, you know, probably some of you are thinking like, how did they miss that? How did they miss that? But you know. Not many people were saying Nami should be played with Targon early on. So I can understand why they did miss it. And obviously they have to test for all the other champions at the same time. Like, you know, there's a lot of things that they probably did test. And they just missed the best one, which will happen sometimes. But okay. Tournament format is in a good spot, but ladder is a bit too fast, better than it was during Azir Aurelia, but could be improved. Sounds about right. They're moving away from reworks. Sounds heavily implied that we should basically not expect them at all anymore. Now, I'm actually going to do a separate video about this because I think that I can really go in depth on this topic, but I'm just going to say for now, I actually think it's a good idea. And I'll explain why probably tomorrow in tomorrow's video. So keep your eyes out for that. Echo mostly needs more predict cards and PNZ to be good. I think we can all definitely agree with that. Kindred needs something, but he hasn't thought about what and about it enough to say what. Kindred is a very odd champion, you know, because Kindred is one of those champions that I think could very easily become like completely insane busted, like with the wrong, you know, dial changed. You know, Kindred has a very strong effect. You know, we all thought Kindred was going to be really good, right? And I think we all thought that because it is a very strong effect if you can't deal with Kindred. And so they have to be careful. Kindred's one of those things that, you know, you have to be careful with. Now the Poppy is better than Quinn in Scouts. Quinn probably needs a buff. So Quinn is kind of an interesting one because before they've said, like, you know, that they have been always very reluctant to buff Quinn. I think because, like, in the development stage of Quinn, and they've said this about Shyvana as well, I remember, that they were both really, really strong in development, so came out maybe, you know, I mean, Quinn didn't come out that underwhelming. Scouts was, you know, fine. Quinn saw play on it. But, you know, potentially have become underwhelming because they didn't want sort of the version that they were first testing to be in the game. And, you know, Scout is a very powerful keyword, so Quinn, you know, I would be looking at, like, a level version of Quinn buff, you know, something like that, like just getting an extra Valor. I think you can do more than that. So we'll see. You mentioned buffing Nightfall because the nerfs of Stalking Shadows and Pale Cascade hit that deck hard despite not being aimed at that deck. Makes a lot of sense, right? How would you buff Nightfall? Plenty of ways of doing it. It could be a buff to the champions. It could be a buff to maybe an interesting card like the, what is it? It's called Evershade Stalker. You know, the 2-mana Nightfall one. You know, something like that. Like, you know, things like that could be, maybe that could block all of a sudden. Like that, you know, things like that could be really interesting. And that seems like it was. So, you mean reworks of individual cards like Ren Shadowblade? Specific context was champions with Lee Sin as an example, but sounded like it was meant in general. So expect numeric or minor phrasing balance changes, not for card text to be majorly changed moving forward. And that seems to be about it. As I say, very, very interesting insight into what's going on. Obviously, I think the game, in terms of like balance and things like that, is in a, you know, it's in a decent place. Not the best I've ever seen, but, you know, definitely far away from the worst. So that's good at least. And yeah, you know, with a couple key sort of changes, which it seems like are being hinted at here, you know, we very easily could get, you know, a very, very good meta game, you know, just with a tweaking of you know, a card or two in certain aspects would be nice. So yeah, I just wanted to bring your attention to this in case you missed it, because I think it's very interesting. And, you know, you might disagree with some things, you might agree with some things. Obviously, I'm just sort of parroting what's been said, so don't hurt me. That's all I've got to say. But thank you so much for watching and have a really nice day.